Hi everyone, Ron here at Abletrend. Welcome to the webinar. We'll take a look at some different charts. We'll talk about the markets. Hasn't been a whole lot happening. Been a little bit on the quiet side. Yet we could always find something. We can only take what the market will give us, but we'll definitely take a look at the charts and see what the Abletrend signals were and what you want to be looking for when you're looking on your chart to give you the low risk trade where the odds would definitely be in your favor. Certainly be some losing trades for sure. Nothing's perfect, but the losses will always be small because you'll have stop losses in place. It's the mental part that's the hardest part, especially if you have a couple of losers. It's just natural to be down and want to maybe stop, and then of course at the end of the day something will happen. It seems like it always works like that. So that's the hardest part. Just not everybody's just cut out to have that mentality, and that's okay. But let's jump in and take a look at the charts. Another thing is you're just not going to get everything perfect. It's just not possible. You want to just grab the bulk of these profits where the software has given us these low risk signals, which is exactly what it does. So let's jump in and take a look at today's charts and see how it works. Here's just an overall view. I always like to look at an overall view of the S&P 500 just to get a general direction of where the market is going, especially if you're like, if you're an option trader or you trade stocks or ETFs or indices. It's just good to get a little overall view of what's happening in the market. Sometimes you want to just step back and look at a daily, weekly chart, or even a weekly, monthly would be fine. Remember, when we use weekly, like a daily, weekly guidance chart, which of course this is what this is, we always use Abletrend TS on the lower time frame, and you just want to use Abletrend 3 on the higher time frame, only for the weekly charts. We always use Abletrend 2, except when we're using daily, weekly. Just use the higher time frame, just make it Abletrend 3. And the reason is there's 5 days in a week, so the weekly chart's 5 times slower. We'd really rather it only be 3 times slower. And Abletrend 3 is a faster indicator than Abletrend 2, so that's why we do that. But just overall, just taking a look, of course we had the nice uptrend there, no trade, had a buy signal here, which we got stopped out on, so it's kind of a break even. This was a nice sweet spot, technically speaking, that we're still in for about let's see, about a good month now. We've been in this sweet spot on the market in general. So everybody wants to know what's going on in the market because of course it affects everything. And we're basically still in that trade. We had some really nice support. The dots, the support dots, which are the small dots under the price, the support dots really did a great job of telling us that no need to get out, no need to get worried on some of those down days last week and the week before. We just back down to support, so we're safe. That's what the blue dots tell us. It tells us that we're still in an uptrend, stay in the trade. But here's what I want to show you, is that we're basically in the same place from 3 weeks ago as we are today. Same price, hasn't moved. So that just makes it very difficult for intraday trading. It just makes it so difficult because what does it tell us? It just tells us there's just a whole lot of nothing going on. So just got to be patient, and that's the hard part. Believe me, I know. But we just got to kind of try and be as patient as possible because there's just not a lot going on intraday, and not even really end of day. Hey, this is a daily, weekly chart of the S&P, the whole market as a whole, and it's exactly in the same spot it was 3 weeks ago. Just a whole bunch of nothing going on. Some small little up or down moves, but as you can see, it's been basically in a tight trading range, and just gotta we just gotta take the small profits that the market's given us, because it's not giving us anything more than that, for us or anybody else. So that's just nothing you can do about that. I wish there were, but otherwise we're still in an uptrend. Green bars, small bars, very narrow trading range again today, but we'll take what they give us. Sometimes it just isn't much. Just taking a look at the quick. Yeah, Stephen, just looking at the questions. Yeah, Stephen, I'm going to go through the crude oil chart. Yes, sir. And Randy's in the room. Hi, Randy. Glad that you're here. So let's jump in. Well, let's take a look at that crude oil chart for Steve. And then we'll take a look at the S&P Mini because everybody likes that one. pretty much the NASDAQ chart was, mini NASDAQ was basically the same thing. But a couple people asking for the mini S&P, so I'll take a look at that too. So here's the crude oil chart, just, perfect classic no trade zone right in here, right in, red dots above telling us there's resistance there, blue dots below telling us there's support. I have a buy signal in here, but boy, that's a pretty good distance. More than 12 cents away from the blue dot is really kind of pushing it. Again, that's just what I see. You can use whatever you like. You can tweak any of these. By the way, you can tweak anything you like. We just give you the guidelines to go by, but you can tweak it in anywhere you like. You can even tweak the time frames. You don't have to use a 3-9. It's what we like. But some people like a 5-15 or a 2-6 or a 10-30. That's perfectly fine to use that. I don't want you to think that you just, this is the only thing that works. You have to use it. No, everybody knows by now the software looks exactly the same, whether you're doing Forex or stocks or E-minis or futures or long-term, medium, swing trading, short-term. It's exactly the same indicator and accuracy because it's all mathematics based. So it doesn't really care what you're trading or what time frames. But we just had a perfect sweet spot here trade this morning. Crude oil moves early in the morning for anybody who's up in the morning. Just got to be careful because you get these big spiky moves every once in a while, similar to gold. So it can be a little scary. Of course, you always got to have your stop losses in place, and just not for everybody. And again, that's okay. But really perfect sweet spot right there. I mean, when you see this on your chart, I don't care if you're looking at a daily, weekly stock chart or crude oil or the British pound. It doesn't matter. It's the same. We're looking for the same setups because it's the same colors and dots and rules. I mean, that is just an absolute textbook sweet spot. Pull back, the price comes down. Now we can get in at a lower price, which is good. The bars go from green, stop exactly at the blue dots. It's just amazing how accurate these dots usually are because we started that blue dot on the exact same price 30 minutes before that even happened. So you knew that there was going to be some support coming in there, and it's exactly what works so well with Abletrend, what gives us this big advantage that nobody else has. They don't have these little support and resistance points. Of course, the bigger dot is simply the higher time frame that I've added to the 3-minute chart. Basically a 3-minute chart, just added the 9-minute dots on top of it. That's all it is. The 9-minute dots are the bigger blue dots, which represents the hidden support, and the bigger red dots over here, which represents resistance. So it's really, really clear and easy, and just really easy to use. You just have to have a little bit of patience and discipline to stick it out. But the point is, when you see this on your chart, that's just a great sign of a low risk trade. Doesn't mean it's perfect. I know I keep saying it. I want to be real clear. I never want to mislead anybody. There's where your stop loss goes. Maybe about 5 or 6 cents below the price here. By the way, just wait for the bar to close. With the close of this blue bar, you got your stop loss here. And as you know by now, we always take profit when the prices hit the band, or especially go outside the band. And most especially if you're a multi-lot trader, because we have a lot of our clients trade very large amounts of money, quite a few contracts. But if you're just trading one, nothing wrong with getting out over here and locking in about 50 cents. Hey, that's $500 in maybe about a half an hour here using the Abletrend signal. Okay, and if you did get out, you can always re-enter right here on this sweet spot. And then, of course, we'd be out over here and actually maybe lose a few cents on that one right there. But if you're a multi-lot trader, just trading 2 contracts, we'll say, and we don't ever tell anybody what to trade. It's up to you. What we do say is be very conservative and start off very demo mode if you're new to it. We just always err on the very conservative side. Very, very low key, low risk. We're just big on that. We're not here to gamble at all. But if you got in here, you took some profit there, and then of course we're completely out here. That would have worked out great this morning. No trade zone here, obviously with the red dots above and blue dots below. And it's a good thing we didn't, because the software, what that means is it's going to go sideways probably, or be very choppy or risky. So we're saying move on to a different chart. It doesn't make sense to trade this, putting up a lot of money every time we make a trade. Just stay away. We'd say it's too real. Well, the software is saying the algorithm is saying it's too risky to get in at that point. Definitely a buy signal here, which we're going to lose 10 cents on that one. And then, we've got two sweet spots where we lose on the first one here because we'd be stopped out. But, this one, what we lost, we certainly got back here. And this, of course, is the end of the day. Well, it's not technically, it's 24 hours, but 4 o'clock New York, 1 o'clock Pacific, basically all trading stops in all markets. So now what we lost here, we did get back a little bit toward the end, if you traded it all day. So, but the point is, I just want to point out what the charts look like and what you should be looking for on your chart, regardless of what you're trading, regardless of what time frames you're trading. This is exactly what you're looking for. These are the setups or the color combinations of the low risk trades that we want, because even if we're wrong, nobody's ever going to lose a lot or get beat up. The losses are always very small, and the guidance chart just allows us or spits out very low risk trades. And when the losses do come about, nobody's going to get hurt. They're going to be limited losses, and that's just what's so helpful with the guidance chart. Unfortunately, some days the market's really tight trading range, very choppy, no matter what you're trading, whether it's long-term, short-term, or stocks, futures, or forex. Some days just really choppy in a narrow trading range. And of course, nobody wins when that happens. But if you put the guidance chart up against a MACD or moving averages or stochastics or whatever else you normally like to use, I mean, those indicators would have got completely killed on a day like that in a choppy market, where the guidance chart, maybe just a small loss because half the day or part of the day was no trade. Clearly, you're going to get a lot of no trade zones when the market's sideways or choppy. And that's what makes it special and gives us the big advantage. Here's an S&P Mini right at the open today. Absolutely perfect no trade zone. And that's exactly what happened. The software said it's going to go sideways. You got these blue dots below, meaning it's going to have a very difficult time breaking under the blue dot. It's kind of like saying there's a wall there or a roadblock. It's invisible, but our software's algorithm, which is what the whole good point of the purpose of Abletrend, what gives us the edge is the algorithm, and it tells us where the hidden or invisible support in the market is. And it's interesting how before it happened, 5 or 6 times the prices really did go to these blue dots and stop. So there really was some support there that kept us out of a potential losing trade, kept us on the sidelines, which is the best thing to do, is not trade. Before knowing this before the markets get choppy, obviously, is a very big advantage for everybody using a guidance chart with Abletrend. Red dots above says there's resistance, blue dot below, so it just told us to stay away, and it's a good thing we didn't, because it really did go sideways and was extremely choppy, as you could see, up and down, and just can't make money under those conditions. But our guidance chart nailed it before it happened. Definitely a buy signal right here, triple confirmation, no red dot above, so it has a clear path to go higher. All we want to do is make sure that we don't have a dot blocking the path we want it to go. If we're buying, we can't have a red dot above because that would block it from going higher. If we're selling short, we can't have a blue dot below because, again, that would block it from going lower. That's all it is. Mixed colors simply means stay away, move on to something else, or just certainly don't trade this, but don't trade that chart or this particular chart. When everything is blue, it means to buy. When everything red, it means to sell short. That's really all it is. If you think about it, it's like, yeah, you know what? It is kind of simple. That's really all we're doing. And any mixed red or blue dots together, I mean, at the same time, like right here, this no trade zone or this no trade zone simply means don't do anything. It's too risky. If you feel the need to trade, just trade something else. Look for another chart that doesn't have a no trade zone at that time. Look for something that has everything in alignment. Is it all blue or red? That's all it is. It's easy to read the chart, I think, especially if you have a little bit of practice. The hard part is doing it. That's the hard part, because there's real money at risk, and obviously it's emotional. So that's the hardest part, and you can't teach that part. That's why the indicator works so well, because it has zero emotion. So if possible, the more you can put your emotions aside and follow the indicator, because this is our roadmap or our GPS to our destination. Well, the more we can follow it and stick to it, the better off we would be. So on the S&P Mini, we do have a buy signal here that we did pick up a couple of points on this trade right over here, where we're of course exiting there. And now that one worked okay. I mean, that was 2.5 points.
and then of course a no trade zone here, but we're going to give back a point because any one of these blue bars is a valid buy signal just as well as this one is here, but we're going to lose a 1.5 because of course we have to get out on the red bar. So we picked up 2.5, but we gave back a point, let's say a 1.5, so we'd be plus 1 point. We got a no trade zone here, but clearly we have a really nice, let me start all over with the, here we go. We had a really nice sweet spot trade right there. We were only a 1.5 from the red dots, so anything under 3 points is considered a low risk trade. That's a valid Abletrend trade. Of course, the closer you can short it to the red dot, well, even lower risk because your stop loss is just a little bit above the red dot. So even if we lose, it's a small loss. So we can all live with that. Certainly if you're in the trading business, if you're a serious trader. But everything was in just perfect alignment right here. And the last half hour of the day, the market took a pretty nice little drop here into the close, which would be right about in this area right here. But that was 5 points, actually 5.5, but I'll just call it 5 because you're not going to max out everything perfect. It's just not possible. You can do it so fast as to place your trade. So 5 points is kind of nice. We were plus 1 point going into the trade. So we wound up plus 6 for the day. So the S&P finally had a decent day because it's just been so flat and choppy, as everybody probably knows who's a serious trader. The markets, especially the S&P, has had all-time low volatility. The VIX has just been so low, meaning there's just very little opportunities to make much money intraday. But that's okay. If that's what we do, then we just stick it out. So pretty cool, pretty good stuff. It's just a question of kind of following along and seeing what you think. Take a look at one more quick one here. Actually, I want to take a look at LABU for my friend Sam here. This is a really good one to trade. This is just a daily weekly chart right here, and we had a really good trade right here. Nice trade in where everything was lined up. And if you didn't get in the beginning, well, you had a bunch of chances because it never really went anywhere. However, this was about 2 weeks ago. A nice buy signal in the I call it $51 area right in here, and just really took off the last 4 or 5 days now, and it's up to 68 and change. So $16 in a week and a half is a really nice trade, especially if you're doing options. That would have been a home run. No trade zone here, of course. This would be a trade here, and this was a losing trade. I like to point the losing trades out too because it's definitely a part of the game. But we only lost 3 points on this trade here, but fortunately no trade zone here, and then picked up 15 points on this trade right here just in the last week. So sometimes you just have to be patient and stick with it. But look at multiple charts. That's the key, because when you get into these no trade zones, it doesn't mean you got to do nothing. Maybe something else is set up where it has a real nice sweet spot where it's a very low risk trade. So see what you think. Alan, I went through the whole CL chart trade by trade, tick by tick already. So sorry about that. I know you said you got in late, but I went through. That's one of the first few charts I went through, literally tick by tick, which worked out pretty well here today. So S&P Mini, crude oil, daily, weekly. We're looking at a bunch of different things. Here's a gold chart, just to throw that in. Gold's really tricky because it moves very, very quick. But nice sweet spot there. You can always take profit at the bands. Oh, here's another real quick thing also. If you, and I leave this, I kind of leave this up to you on this, but I've been, just to give you a little heads up, I've been experimenting with widening the bands a little bit to 3.5 instead of 3 deviations, which is what we normally use. I personally been widening them to 3.5, and I just find it's been a little bit more helpful. When the bands are too tight, it just prevents too much from getting in, and getting in and out too quickly if you're taking profit at the bands. So anyhow, especially at the opening, when the markets tend to, a real influx of volume comes in at the beginning. So again, strictly up to you. I just been going 3.5 on the deviations up and 3 deviations down. So just wanted to throw that out there. I just find that I personally just like it a little better. It doesn't mean because I like it, it makes any difference. But normally we use 20 period, 3.5. Normally it's 20 period and 3. I just been bumping it up to 3.5. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I find that I like that a little bit better. And, you kind of experiment and see what you think, especially at the open, because a lot of people have been saying they've really been missing out on a lot of trades at the, 9:30 Eastern time open when the markets open up, which is 6:30 Pacific, because the bands have been a little too tight. So I've just been getting a lot of feedback recently from everyone feeling that the bands are a little too tight, and I agree with that too. I kind of felt the same way, and again, especially at the open when the markets first open. So I've been using 3.5, and I'm finding that's really been helpful. So see what you think. I've been using that, and I've been just sticking with that. So just your call on that one, and I think I'm finding it helpful because definitely getting some feedback on that one, and the feedback has been that the 3.5 has been working a little bit better. So see what you think. Just trading's a tough business, that's for sure, especially when markets are sideways and choppy. It's not fun. However, I just don't see how you could do any better without I don't see how you can do any better not having a guidance chart, because it just keeps us out of so many so much potential choppiness and so much risk and so many losing trades, and that's why we get so many less losing trades with the guidance chart. I mean, I wish I could say it was perfect, but that would we all like that, but of course that's just not really possible. But stick with it. I know the guys in the options moneymaker room has been doing excellent. Michael does just a great job, and a great person too. So see what you think. If you've never been there, that's certainly been something to check out. And I know they have a 1-week free trial. It's called optionsmoneymaker.com, and they trade options on the S&P 500 and on the NASDAQ indices. Just something that might interest you. However, it doesn't matter. The software's the same no matter what you like to use it on. And I'm always here to help, so feel free to call or email anytime. By now we're really helpful here, and I certainly like what I do, and I really like being helpful. So don't hesitate, because it's so much easier to talk, especially if you have a technical question. It's so much easier to just give a quick call in versus trying to go through something technical by email. You just can't get the point across, and you go back and forth. And fortunately, unlike many other companies who only do email support, which I find very frustrating, because you want an answer now. This is trading. You need the answer now. Plus, you need to talk to somebody, generally speaking, unless it's something simple. You need to usually talk to somebody to walk you through it. So, we have that. We've got that covered here with, you can just call in. We're always glad to help. So thanks for being here, everyone. I'm always happy to help, and just have a great night.